At a time where people come onto our show and say, you know, you should really take vitamins, recommending vitamin D, vitamin C, maybe zinc, and then I get reports that that doctor is now under review for their license, I was shocked when I heard arguably the world's leading doctor say this.
Should moms be doing something just to boost our kids' immune system? You know, do you need more vitamin C? Do they need more spinach? Is there anything we should be doing? Elderberry.
There are two vitamins that you should consider. For example, if you are deficient in vitamin D, that does have an impact on your susceptibility to infection. So I would not mind recommending, and I do it myself, taking vitamin D supplements. The other vitamin that people take is vitamin C because it's a good antioxidant. So if people want to take a gram or two at the most of vitamin C, that would be fine. So vitamin C and vitamin D, okay.
Pretty amazing revelation there from the head of NIAID now saying that he himself takes vitamin D and vitamin C. I find that shocking only because we've had doctors on the high wire that have made statements exactly like that. The use of vitamin D, very important to boost the immune system, doses of vitamin C, and then those doctors report that they are now under review by the medical board. I wonder if the world's, biggest, baddest doctor in the world is going to be under review for admitting that he takes vitamin D and C. Now, to get to the bottom of what D and C might actually do, though, why don't we bring on a doctor that has never been afraid of losing her license, is one of the most outspoken, powerful, awesome doctors in the world. I'm talking about none other than Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. Sherry, can you hear me?
I can. Good afternoon, Del. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. Thank you for taking the time to join us. First of all, are you somewhat shocked that the Anthony Fauci that has been pushing for a vaccine and the only way to get out of this seems to be really dependent on pharma and drugs, and that's his world, actually just admitted that he takes vitamin supplements like vitamin D and C? Or do you think they all are doing that behind the scenes and just sort of poo-poo vitamins usually out in public?
Well, I think it is pretty interesting that he's now admitting that and sort of like tongue-in-cheek, almost laughing. You know, Del, from the time all of this COVID nonsense started, and they started talking about testing, I said, the one thing people should be having tested is their vitamin D level. They should forego the COVID testing, which we know has as high as a 30% false negative rate, and in some of the labs, 100% false positive rate. Instead of doing all of that and subjecting yourself to DNA harvesting, which is what the whole program is about, we should be going out and getting our vitamin D tested. And the appropriate level of D is a test called 25 hydroxy vitamin D, which is written like 25 capital OH vitamin D. That's the active form. That's the form that we check for in the blood. And the range on that vitamin D level generally comes back from a lab somewhere between 30 and 100. So it's very important for patients when you get your blood test back and the nurse or whoever calls you and says, yes, your vitamin D level is normal, to ask them specifically what your number is. Because in order for it to be therapeutic and prevent you from getting viral infections, bacterial infections, to have an anti-cancer effect, particularly against breast, colon, and prostate cancer, that level needs to be targeted to be somewhere between 80 and 100. So if you have a level that comes back that's 31 and the nurse or nurse practitioner calls and says, oh, your level is normal, it may be in the laboratory derived normal range, but it's not in an optimized therapeutic level.
So what is it that vitamin D does in the body? I mean, my understanding is if you're getting enough sun, vitamin D is coming from the sun. You don't need to take supplements. But I know also so many of us use suntan lotion now and are blocking out the sun. But there just seems to be a lot of discussion now about vitamin D. I remember when I worked on the doctors, 7, 8 years ago, we were just starting to hear medical doctors discussing the need for vitamin D in the immune system. It is becoming a bigger and bigger discussion point. Why vitamin D, and what does that have to do with our immune system?
Well, vitamin D, by some circles, actually, they actually even call it a pre-hormone because it's made in your skin. It's activated by the sunlight, like you were speaking about, but then it's activated by the kidney, and then the vitamin D level has a different therapeutic location in all the different organ systems in your body. You have to have adequate vitamin D levels to absorb calcium, for calcium into your bones, to be able to absorb calcium from your gut into your blood. Vitamin D is the base molecule for your hormones, for like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. Vitamin D helps with all of the support of your white blood cells. The Vitamin D Council is a great resource for everyone. It has almost an endless number of articles, published articles over the last 10, 15, 20 years, showing the benefit of vitamin D and how important it is to all the different areas in your system. Now, you mentioned a little bit about the sunlight. It's really important for people, like I'm in Cleveland, Ohio. So it's really important for people to understand that when you live north of the 40th parallel, and the 40th parallel, if you took a map of the United States and you drew a line from San Francisco to Washington, D.C., that's approximately the 40th parallel. When you're north of that line, the sunlight as it comes onto the earth isn't really strong enough to give you all the adequate stimulation you need on your skin in order to develop and produce adequate enough vitamin D. That's why it's really important for people in the northern territories here north of the 40th parallel in the U.S. and Europe, and south of the 40th parallel for those good friends of ours that are living south of that, in South America, Australia, and New Zealand, because as your show is worldwide, that they know that those levels in the sunshine isn't really enough. Now, it's a good thing, particularly in the summer when the sun is much higher. That's usually the standard recommendation is to go outside butt naked, as they say, or at least with your skin all exposed as much as you can. No sunscreen, no hat, no shirt, no anything like that, for a minimum of 20 minutes a day, preferably in the morning, somewhere between 9 and 10 o'clock in the morning, where you get really good types of sun rays instead of sun scorching, burning rays that happen somewhere between noon and, say, 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So you do get good stimulation for that. Another thing is that African American people with dark colored skin, a lot of Indian patients, people that have a darker colored skin, all of them tend to be vitamin D deficient because there's the color in their skin, the melanin in their skin blocks out the stimulatory effects of the sunshine. And I think that that's really important, Del, in the African American population, because it's also been published in the medical literature that it's nearly impossible to lose weight if you're vitamin D deficient, if you have a vitamin D level less than 25. And a lot of people in that African American population have issues with obesity, diabetes, and hypertension, all of which are related to low vitamin D levels. So that population of people very much needs to get tested and work hard by taking supplements, because you really can't do it with foods, to take supplements to get your level up between 80 and 100 to be protective for your physiology.
Do you think that that's why? Is vitamin D maybe directly related, or one of the reasons why we are seeing COVID-19, that one of the risk groups that's so often talked about is the African American community here in the States?
Could very well be for that particular reason. Another thing that I've been saying that if you're going to go and get a blood test and not a COVID test or a SARS-CoV-2 test to be more accurate, not only should you get a vitamin D level done, you should get an iodine level done, because iodine is your body's natural antiseptic. It's important, and it's not just important for thyroid. It's important from your mouth all the way through to your rectum. It's important for the tears in your eyes. It's important to protect your brain. And so iodine levels need to be tested too. And that level should be therapeutically and to be physiologically protective somewhere around 100. It needs to be somewhere around that level. Del, I've said for a really long period of time that we've known from the NHANES studies that many pregnant women, even in the United States, are really, really deficient in iodine. The International Association of Iodine Deficiency Diseases is actually bigger than the World Health Organization on a global basis. And iodine deficiency with a level less than 19, and if you happen to be pregnant, puts your infant at great risk. But I've often wondered if it wasn't one of the many risk factors that puts many children at risk when they're born to increasing vaccine injuries because mothers were low in their vitamin D, low in iodine when they were pregnant. So babies obviously were going to be low in those two protective nutrients when they're born. And then, of course, we hit them with vitamin K and hepatitis B right after their birth, and then the stomp up of the schedule. And I've often wondered if that wasn't a contributor. I've never seen any literature on that. I do know that the iodine levels in Oriental women, particularly Japanese women and Chinese women, because they eat a lot of sea vegetables and a lot of seaweed and a lot of fish, that their iodine levels tend to be much higher than Caucasian people in the United States and in Europe. And so those are two levels that I think are really, really important. And I know Dr. Fauci also mentioned vitamin C. I mean, Linus Paulding got, the Nobel Prize way back in the 30s or 40s. So it's not really new news. And I think that vitamin C is so important as an antioxidant. And I'm a big fan of vitamin C ascorbates, the salt in the powder form. And the powder form I like the best because it's most easily absorbed and you can give it to any age group and not have to think about swallowing pills or about whether that pill is going to dissolve in your stomach.
That sounds great. You're an amazing wealth of knowledge. And I have to tell you, I really want to be honest with you, Sherry. I've just been out. I'm beginning to tour again now that the airlines are opening up and so many people, are having rallies around the country. But everywhere I go, Sherry, people pull me aside. First of all, they ask me, is Sherry going to be here? But the amount of people that say that the person that changed my life or saved my baby or really made me understand what was happening with vaccines was Dr. Sherry Tenpenny. I know they probably come up to you, but I just want you to know how many people come up to me and go out of their way to tell me to thank you for setting them on a course for healthier children. And many times you've worked directly with them with their own health issues. So you are such a great resource, which leads me to the next thing I want to talk about. You have come on this show before, and you do these courses to educate people online on, how to understand vaccines better, how to maintain health, how to raise our children, an entire life health course that is so powerful. In fact, here's just a clip of that course that you can take online. Take a look at this.
Well, hello everyone. We are back again. Welcome to the continuation of Module 3 in the Mastering Vaccine Info Foundational Course and Training. The fear generated by the word polio has led to a multi-generational indoctrination, a horrible fear of paralysis. So what is polio? The polio virus is a member of the enterovirus group of viruses. They are transient inhabitants of the gastrointestinal tract. There were at least 6 different manifestations of polio infections, and up to 72% of people who were exposed to a polio virus had no symptoms whatsoever. 96% of all polio infections at the height of the polio epidemics were asymptomatic. And did you notice the reference on this slide for this information? The 13th edition of the book, Epidemiology and Prevention of Vaccine-Preventable Diseases, more commonly referred to as the Pink Book. So the big question is this: how many persons in those medical groups actually read the information published by the CDC specifically for them? How many actually know that 96% of polio infections were mild or even asymptomatic? Paralytic polio did exist, but it was rare, occurring in less than 1% of all polio infections. That means that 0.0021% of all cases of polio had a serious infection, and the infection could have been complicated enough that the person was placed on an iron lung machine. The true incidence of paralysis caused by a polio virus was almost negligible.
So, Sherry, you've been at this a very long time. You have one of the most thorough libraries of information that people can access about all of the questions you might have about vaccines and health. But you have a new course coming up that people can enroll in. And I'd really like to make this the call to action this week, because one of the biggest issues, Sherry, is people want to talk to their friends. They want to be able to have intelligent conversations, but they have a hard time with the talking points or understanding how to approach it. And, you know, I would love to have the time to sit down and teach people. I think people get something from the high wire and they use it. But to actually have a course, someone walking them through these points, how to address these points, talk to politicians, talk to their friends. Tell me how the course works and what do people need to know? How do they sign up and how often do the classes happen and all of that stuff?
Well, we call it the Mastering Vaccine Info Bootcamp course. It's only offered twice a year. It's 8 weeks. It's online. And I'm proud to say we've had people from about 18 countries that have taken our course online, even from Pakistan, South Korea, Japan, the Maldives. I mean, people from all over the world have taken our course. A lot of people from Australia, New Zealand, Canada, UK, et cetera. It's an 8-week course. We only offer it twice a year. So we're in an open enrollment week right now. It's just for 1 week is open enrollment. It closes. You won't hear another thing about it. And quite frankly, Del, this may be the last Mastering Vaccine Info Bootcamp course that we do, just because so much has changed out there in the vaccine world. We'll know a lot more after the first of the year. But people who have waited to take this course, this may be the last course. Every Saturday, there is a course that you can access every Saturday. It's home study. You study on your own from Saturday till the following Thursday. Then on Thursday night, my business partner Matt and I host an online Zoom call for everybody that's in the class to discuss the course content and other types of topics of that week. We do that for 8 weeks, and we cover topics such as safe and effective herd immunity, and quite frankly, I think the herd immunity module is one of the best course modules I've ever put together, if I can toot my own horn on that a little bit, because it really does drill down. We talk about, we actually teach people how to read a package insert. You know, so many times we tell people, go read a package insert, but if you don't have a science background or come from that world, you open that big piece of paper up and lay it across the table, it can be pretty daunting. So we go through it in a stepwise fashion so they can learn and then they can teach others. We also talk about the ramp up of the schedule, that from 1985 to the present. Now, in the past boot camps, we've also talked about smallpox and polio, because as you know, when you start with somebody new, that's always the place it starts from. What about smallpox and what about polio? That was 4 hours worth of, that was four modules, so about 2.5 hours worth of content. We have moved that over into Vaccine U, and that will be part of people's free bonuses that we will offer them. And instead, we've replaced it with a whole set of content about COVID, about the masks, about social distancing, about contact tracing, about this horrible stuff about the vaccines and what's coming with the vaccine, with the hydrogel and the nanobots and the nanotechnology. And my business partner, in between each one of those didactic models, Matt teaches language training on how to communicate well, how to be a better speaker, how to get in and out of heated discussions without losing your friends, how to open doors to people with closed minds. And this time he's putting together a whole new module on the basics of activism and supremely good communication. So about a third of our course is brand new content that we've never done before that is timely for right now.
You know, Sherry, so many people, and for those of you out there, you say, you know, Del, what should I do? What is it I need to do next? And I always say, you've got to follow your intuition. Something inside of you is telling you what you should do, whether it's walk over to the pregnant woman in the grocery store and, you know, have a discussion with her about, you know, health or vitamins or vaccines, whatever you're guided to do. But if you just heard, you know, Sherry talking about that, you said, you know, I would really love to be awesome at talking about this. I'm tired of, you know, looking for those talking points. I know they're inside of me, but I don't know how to address them, or I don't have the information to, you know, hand over. Then I would recommend this course. We've had people that work at the High Wire that are going to be working on the science to break it down for the show actually take this course so that they have a better understanding of what we're doing here. And so, Sherry, I want to thank you for the work that you've done, for all of the lives that you've saved, and for this incredible course. Where do we go to check it out? Where online can we find the course if we want to sign up?
Well, if you want more background information, because $495, you probably want to learn more about it before you pay the enrollment fee. If you go to Vaxxter.com, which is my main website, V as in Victory, AXXTER, the first article there talks about everything I just said. It drills down on what comes through the course and how the course content works. The second article is about the 8 bonuses that comes along. So that's right there on the website. If you're like, hey, I'm in, I just want to go register, you can go to masteringvaccineinfo.com/bootcamp, and that gets you directly into the course. And we really hope that you'll join us this time. We hope, and for people who have enrolled in the past, people who have gone through the course in the past, we actually have a discount for everybody who's been an alumni person who wants to go through it again and just be part of the conversation. It's $195. So they get a $300 discount to sign up if they've been an alumni.
Well, it's so great, Sherry, because we're all going to need to be on the ground, no matter how these, elections turn out in the fall here. It is clear that pharma is trying to not only buy presidents, but congressmen, senators, assembly members, in states. And more, we need to get active. We need to be able to walk into these, houses of government and be able to speak the truth clearly. So if you are a person that has the time and has the desire, please become one of those very well-educated warriors, and there's no better way to do it than working with Sherry. Sherry, thank you for taking the time. Thanks for enlightening us on vitamins, and have a great time with your course, and I know I'll see you out there on the speaking circuit really soon. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Del. I will say one last thing. A tagline on our course is confident parents, intelligent leaders, and articulate activists. So I look forward to seeing you again real soon in person. Thanks so much, Del.
All right. Take care, Sherry. If you like that clip, then be sure to check out our live broadcast of The High Wire every Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Pacific Time. You can watch it on Facebook, iTunes, and Twitter. We'll see you there.